Dear fellow scholars, this is 2-Minute Papers with Dr. Károly Zsolnai Fehér. It is important for you to know that everybody can make deepfakes now. You can turn your head around, mouth movements are looking great, and eye movements are also translated into the target footage.
Jan's coming in from corporate to talk to all the women about, I don't really know what. I'll be back. And I am back.
Then have a nice day. Thank you.
Wait a second. Somebody's trying to connect to our conference.
Okay, who? Who is it?
I don't know. 1 second.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Are you Elon Musk?
Yes. It looks like I got into the wrong conference in Zoom. How are you doing, guys?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm nice. Thank you. Nice hair color, by the way.
Thank you.
It's Elon.
Well, then have a nice day. Bye.
Have a nice day. you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice
Elon.
day.
The video which you guys have just seen, that is called deepfake, and that is part of this particular technique called GAN, which is nothing but generative adversarial network. So this topic was already available in the starting of deep learning era, but it is starting getting popular in late 2015 and 2016, and the credit goes to this particular researcher named Ian Goodfellow. So he wrote the book. He has even wrote a book about deep learning and this particular technique GAN in detail. So if you guys want to explore that, feel free to explore that. You will find interesting finding and interesting mathematical concept behind generative adversarial network in that book. Although we are going to study all these in this video lecture as well. So this particular topic is my personal favorite topic, because if you see the application of this topic, the applications are immense. Yes, if you try to use it in negative way, yes, it could do all of those negative things, and that is why it is risky as well. So deepfake is one of the most popular example of this GAN. So if we have not enough training data, if we do not have enough training data, we can use GAN to generate artificial image and artificial voice generation. All of those are a few examples of generative adversarial network. Even if you see art, there are few people who are trying to create art using GAN. So I'll share a video with you guys. You guys can see that how we can create beautiful art using GAN. So style GAN is one of the technique using this GAN architecture to transfer the style of one image or one painting to another painting. So I'll show you all of those examples. So let's start from the application of GAN. So if you go to this particular Medium page, and this is by Jonathan Hui. So he has written this particular beautiful blog about some cool applications of GAN. So if we see the GAN, there are more than 300 papers, there are more than 300 techniques, 300 specific tasks which can be performed by GAN. So if I want to explain all of the papers, all of the specific tasks, that is not possible in this video series. So what I will do, I will explain you the basics of GAN, and it will follow up by some advanced topic and obviously some great projects as well. So if we talk about the applications of GAN, you can see that how we can use like progressive GAN, and this is nothing but one of the technique of GAN, one of the example of GAN, how they are using this progressive GAN to create high resolution, larger resolution picture. So here we have some lower resolution picture, and here we can see this is like late 2017, and we are able to see that how GAN is able to create such beautiful artificial images of 1024 cross 1024 resolution. So this is really great achievement, and this is only one very specific and small task, right? So similarly, we can create artificial anime character using GAN. So if you are weeb, if you are anime fan, you can use this to create artificial images of this anime characters, right? So we will talk about all of the techniques later, but here in this blog, I'm showing you all the cool techniques which we can perform using GAN. So this pose estimate, this is one of the application which is even Amazon wanted to integrate in their fashion website. So what it is doing, that given the original input image, they wanted to create a pose such a way that they can generate artificial pose using the original image pose. So one thing which is very specific about GAN, in GAN we do not have ground truth. That means we do not have. So I will show you all the things, all the working principle in the later part of the video. Just for now, we will see the applications. So you see, this is the generated image, and it is generated by GAN, and this particular image is never existed. This is the power of GAN, right? So if we see, this is the example I was talking about. So style transfer using a zebra and horse, how we can use style transfer cycle GAN to change some of the visual feature of all of these two images and merge into horse to zebra and zebra to horse, right? So how beautiful is it, isn't it? So star GAN, like we can create artificial faces of stars, we can manipulate the faces of stars, just the way we have seen in first video, like how we can manipulate the Obama's face using deep fake. So that is also possible using GAN. And like there are few more example of a style transfer, how we can use one image to get the multiple artificial images, right? So this is one more example, like how we are using GAN to create very high resolution image. So if you talk about the applications of GAN, applications are immense. This is full-fledged course for MIT, full-fledged semester course for MIT. So if you want to dig deep into GAN and understand all the topics, it will take very large chunk of time. So it is not possible to get covered all the topics in a single course, right? So this is really beautiful blog. I would recommend you to go through this blog and understand at least famous GAN techniques and their applications, right? So I was talking about how this is a semester long course. So this GAN is so versatile that MIT has introduced their own course, a semester long course called Deep Generative Model. So you can access all the course notes, all the syllabus. I just wanted to say that how versatile, how wide this particular topic is. So that is the reason why we cannot why we cannot go through all the applications of GAN in this video lecture, right? So this is the syllabus of that MIT course. You can access all the slides. Unfortunately, we do not have video. We do not have various video from MIT guys, but you guys can access slides, so that would be helpful to you guys. So if we see the applications, the paper which is written in the context of GAN, let me show you a graph. So this is the GAN-Zoo GitHub profile, and if you see the graph, in last 5 years there are more than 400 research paper which is published in the context of GAN, and this is not even 2020, this is like before 2019, late 2018, right? So if you see the number of papers written in GAN, it has increased exponentially. now it would be more than 1,000 research paper, and each research paper follow different technique, follow different architecture. One is better than another, one is very specific to one type of application, let's say style transfer type of application, one is very specific to deep fakes type of application. So we can see that how number of research paper has published exponentially in last few years, right? So if you go further and go to this Ganju profile, he has almost tried to list all the research paper till late 2018 in the context of GAN. So you can see how much research paper we have, right? So this is not like one paper is exceptionally better than other, but these all are the techniques, and all of these papers are implementing one type of network architecture which is different from their previous iteration, or which is different from other architecture, right? And similarly, this is one more page. So like, go to GitHub and write really awesome GAN, you would be able to access this page. So in this page, the person, what's the name? Okay, Nitrom, yeah. This guy has tried to compile all the videos and blogs which he could find in the context of GAN, and he has collectively compiled all the resource in the context of GAN in this particular GitHub repository. So you guys can check it out as well. Now, what we are going to understand in this video series, let me show you. So we are going to understand all the technique. What we are going to study, we are going to learn GAN from first principle approach. Right? So we will understand what exactly GAN is, how we have come to this particular technique, how can we drive this particular technique, and all of those things. So we will use first principle approach to understand GAN, right? So after that we will study about simple neural network based GAN, simple fully connected neural network based GAN, and we will see that what are the results we can obtain using simple neural network GAN. And the example, the toy set example which we will use, that is going to be MNIST digit example. So in this particular video, we are going to generate artificial image of digits, MNIST digits, and we will see that how we can use GAN to generate these artificial images. Now we will follow up by another technique named DC GAN. So this is nothing but deep convolutional GAN, and then we will study about SA GAN. So this is a 2018 technique, and this is like really quite well defined, well structured technique. This is self-attention GAN, by the way. So we are going to understand these 4 things. So in last video we have seen various applications of GAN, and we have also seen the possibilities of GAN, like deepfake and style transfer was one of the few applications and few possibilities of GAN. And if you want to explore this, the possibilities are immense, as well as in the positive way as well as in the negative way. So if you want to explore it, you can explore it by yourself. So what we are going to study now, we are going to understand GAN from the first principle approach, and we are going to take this particular toy set example, MNIST digit set example. So we are going to generate artificial images, artificial digits using GAN, which is similar to very MNIST dataset, right? And then we will see code walkthrough of simple neural network based GAN. fully connected neural network based GAN, right? So let's now understand what actually we want to perform, what is the task we want to perform in MNIST, then we will move forward. So what is the working of GAN? What do we want to do exactly? So let's assume that we have the MNIST dataset, and if you guys remember, if in the dataset we have 28 cross 28, we have 28 cross 28 pixel size image, and each image has some digits like 1 or 2, right? And that can be represented using intensity of pixel between 0 to 255 intensity, right? And that can be further normalized between 0 to 1. So basically you can represent any digits, you can represent any digit with color intensity between 0 to 1, and each pixel has that level of intensity. For example, this area, the intensity is close to 0, that is why we are seeing very dark pixel. But for this area, one reason, the intensity is close to 1, and that's how we can see this one image, right? So this is all about data set. So what do? We flatten it out. Let's say we want to perform fully connected network on the top of this original data set. So what do? We flatten out this 28 cross 28 image, and we get 764 dimensional image, right? So this image 28 cross 28 pixel image can be converted into 764 dimensional images, right? Now using GAN, what do we want to do? We want to generate dataset D dash with same number of dimension, same 764 dimension vector, such a way that the generated dataset is very similar to original dataset. This is what do we want to do in generative adversarial network, GAN, right? So let me repeat again. We want to generate dataset D dash such a way it is very similar to my original dataset D. And what do I mean by similar? That's the next question which I should be asking. Like, how can I define similarity? How can I mathematically define similarity? So we will see further what is the similarity mean. But before we understand MNIST, before we understand how we can generate MNIST dataset, we are going to understand GAN from one-dimensional perspective. So if you guys see in MNIST, we have 764 dimensional data, and this is quite large. Like if I want to understand everything from scratch, I want to generate all of these 764 dimensional dataset. This is quite complex task, because even visually we can only see 3-dimensional dataset. So to understand GAN in more better way, in more geometric way, we are going to understand the GAN from one-dimensional perspective, right? So now I want to convert the original problem. So what I'm saying, now I have only one single variable. My data set now consists of height of students in a class. Let's assume I have a class and I have bunch of students, and I have heights of all of those students in a particular class. The height is denoted by h1, h2, h3 up to hm. We have n number of students, and this original data set consists of all the heights of a student in a class, right? Now in this particular case, we want to create another data set called D dash. This is the generated sample, such that it has also the size, it has also the heights of the student h1, h2 up to m number of student, such a way that this generated sample D dash is similar to D, right? So this is what we want to do using GAN, right? Now understand all the bits and pieces, like what is generative, how we are going to generate it, and what actually we are trying to do in GAN bit by bit. So now first let's understand the generative part. So what I'm saying, that we have original dataset D and it has bunch of students which height is h1, h2, h3 up to hn, right? So this is the scalar value. Now if I want to plot this, I don't know what is the distribution of this class. I really don't know. I've never seen this data, but let's assume that I am visually plotting it. This is the plot of height of the student, right? Now my task is, if somehow I'm able to recognize this distribution, if somehow I'm able to obtain this distribution of original data set D, then I can randomly sample from this original data set and I can generate my artificial sample. So what do I mean by that? Let's assume that I don't know what is the actual distribution this height, what is the actual PDF this height function follows. I really don't know. It could follow Gaussian distribution, it could follow uniform distribution, it could be follow any type of distribution, right? Now if you guys remember, we have some statistical tool like QQ-plot or KS-plot. So if I give you context about this QQ-plot, basically this QQ-plot try to find out what is the distribution of given variable. So how it try to do that? So basically it compares one, let's say I have variable 1 and it has some v1, v2, v3 up to vn, n number of variables, and similarly I have variable, name it by, let's say c1, it has c1, c2, c3, c4. So I have variable v and I have variable c, and both of these variables has n number of data point. So how QQ-plot works? It takes ideal data point. So let's say in the x-axis it is saying that I will take some random sample of Gaussian distribution, right? Here in the x-axis I have some Gaussian distribution, and in the y-axis it plot this variable v. So if the variable v has same distribution as this ideal Gaussian distribution, it will give me 45-degree inclined line, right? So this QQ-plot is saying that I will assume some bunch of ideal data point by itself. In this case this is Gaussian distribution, and then I will compare this distribution with the variable, the variable which has n number of data points, and if the line is inclined to 45 degree, this is straight line, that mean the distribution of variable v is very similar to this ideal distribution Gaussian. Similarly, there could be another distribution like uniform distribution, and if I compare it with a variable c and still it is giving me a straight line, I can say that this variable c belong to this ideal distribution, uniform distribution with parameter a and b, right? Now getting back to our context, what I want to find a distribution of this original data set which has bunch of height. So using statistical tool like QQ-plot and KS-plot, let's assume that we are able to retrieve the PDF of this height h. Now after that I've got to know that my original distribution belong to Gaussian distribution with mean mu and variation sigma. This is I've obtained using QQ-plot, right? So this is the task what I wanted to perform. I wanted to find a distribution of height, and I've used a statistical tool like QQ-plot, and after using this QQ-plot I've got to know that my original distribution belong to a normal distribution with parameter mu and sigma. By the way, these parameters are represented using very specific notion called theta. So if you want to represent if you want to represent any parameter, doesn't matter if it belong to Gaussian distribution or if it belong to uniform distribution with parameter a and b, you can represent these parameter using theta. Now if I want to convert all the things which I've just explained to you in mathematical form, can I say that the task of generative model, okay, so before that, here I have generated, I have got to know that original distribution D belong to normal distribution with mean mu and sigma and some parameter sigma, right? Now once I obtain this Gaussian distribution, I can generate random sample and any number of random sample from this Gaussian distribution, and I can generate these artificial samples. Now can I say that this original distribution and this artificial distribution which we have just obtained using which we have just generated using this Gaussian distribution, which is obtained using QQ-plot, it is very similar? Can I say that? Yes, I can say that. So the task of generative model is exactly same. So if I convert all the things which we have just studied into generative context, can I say that I want to find out PDF of variable original dataset H such a way it has some parameter theta. Once I able to get the distribution, this probability density function with parameter theta, I can generate these random sample and it would be my artificially generated sample, right? So that's the task of this generative model G. Now let's understand what is discriminator means. So if you have, so bear with me, you will able to understand all the things in the end of the video. We are just understanding each of the words and concept, and then we will compile all the things that will give you the core idea about what is GAN. Now if we talk about discriminative part, so it is also called adversarial part. We will see why it is called adversarial part. So I've asked you a question that how can we say that this D dash is very similar to D? So mathematically, what is the idea of similarity? So to check this, whether the data point which is generated using generative model G is very similar to the original data set or not, we use something called discriminator, which is denoted by usually D, right? So let's see how does it work. So I've told you that I want to understand how D dash is similar to original D, right? So the very first and very naive approach is, why not we visually check the distribution of D and D dash. So if you guys remember simple EDA or univariate analysis, why not we simply plot the probability density function of artificially generated data point and originally generated data point. This is the original height. Why not we just simply visualize the distribution in 2D plot? So if we visualize it, and if the distribution is overlapping on the top of each other, I can say that this D is very similar to D dash. So okay, let me give you another context. So if this is my distribution of D and this is a distribution of D dash, so here I can clearly see that the distribution of D and D dash is separated. So that means D and D dash is not similar to each other. But in other case, if we have both the distribution overlapping to each other, I can say that D is very similar to D dash, and that's how I can use simple 2D plot to understand whether original data set D is very similar to D dash or not, right? But there is one problem with this specific approach. What's the problem? The problem is how do you visualize when we have higher dimension? So here we have seen just two-dimensional data point where I am using only one variable or one feature or one dimension. So to visualize one dimension, one variable, we need two-dimensional plot. So if we have two features, we need to have 3D plot. Now let's assume that we have 764 dimension. Which type of plot would you use? Which type of plot we can use to understand whether D is equivalent to D dash or not? And that's the problem with this visualization approach. We cannot use this simple visualization approach where we have more than 3 or 4 dimensional data points, right? Now there's another approach. Why don't we use some metric like KL divergence or JS Johnson, I don't remember the full name, JS distance. So the idea is, once we obtain the artificial data point h1 dash and original data point h1, why not we just compute the difference between artificial data point and original data point and compute the loss, and if it is close, we can say that it is very similar. So if the distance between D and D dash is very similar, so I can say that H and H dash, the loss is also very small, this distance is very small. So yes, I can use these metric to understand whether original data point is similar to artificially generated data point or not. But there is still one more problem with this approach as well. So actually these type of approaches, these type of metrics is used before deep learning era. So at that time we do not had larger computational power, so we used to stick with smaller dimensional data point, and that is how all of these techniques has started to come up. So the problem with these type of techniques are that these type of metrics are only applicable when we have less than 10 dimensional data points. So these metrics is starting to break when we have more than 10 dimensional data, and curse of dimensionality is one of the reasons why we cannot use these type of metric to simply compute whether artificially generated image is similar to original data set or not. Now we will study third approach, and this is the most important approach about GAN. This is where the discriminative model comes in. So to overcome all of our two problems, we use something called discriminator. So the task of discriminator is just the way we have created a model G to find out a probability of original dataset and the parameter associated with that dataset. Why not we use another model called D discriminator, which can distinguish between D dash and D such a way that it can help us to understand whether D is similar to D dash or not, right? So this is the idea of discriminator. So what it is saying that, let's assume I have generated image D. So in the starting, let's assume that I have a model M and it is able to recognize this PDF and this parameter theta of that height, right? Now this is the artificially generated sample, and we also have some originally generated sample named D. Now what I'm saying that all the class level, let's say all the data point which is generated from this discriminator, this generator G, let's say this is G. All the data sample which is generated from G, let's give class label equal to 1. Let's associate a class label 1 to all the data point which has generated from this generator G, and at the same time all the original input or all the original dataset D associate class label 0 to this dataset. Now what do we have? We have this dataset D dash and we have this dataset D, and for all the dataset D dash we have class label 1, and for original dataset we have class label 0. Now what I'm saying that just create a model MD, which is nothing but it will able to classify between D dash and D such a way that it is a binary classification problem. So what I'm saying that just create a model M, which is a binary classification problem, which is a binary classification model, and it will try to classify generated input and original input. So its task is to distinguish between D dash and D. So if D dash is very similar to D, if D dash is very similar to D, it will give me less score. Okay, we will understand that in just after a few minutes. Bear with me. What I'm saying that in the case of discriminator, just create a discriminator model such a way that it is able to distinguish between this generated input and this original input. And if it is able to distinguish between these two input, then I can say that this D is not similar to D dash, and I need to update my generative model. Such a way I can fool this discriminator, and it says that my original data point is very similar to generated data point. Just bear with me, everything will be clear just after a few minutes. We will see how this discriminator is able to give me that similarity between original input and artificial input. So for now, you just have to understand that we have created a discriminated model T, which is performing binary classification task such a way it will try to distinguish between generative input and original input, right? Now we will see that how this discriminator D is able to give me it is able to distinguish between original input and generated input. So if you remember, we have a loss associated with this binary classifier. So what will happen? There is a two case which is going to happen. Either we are going to have higher accuracy, very high accuracy, and low accuracy. So what does this mean? We will see. So before we understand that part, just for the revision, the generative part is trying to find out a distribution P of theta, PDF of theta is the parameter of original class T, and using this distribution, my generative model will try to generate random sample such a way it will act as artificially generated sample. Now discriminator is trying to discriminate between original input and artificially generated input using binary classification, right? So if we combine all the things, if we combine all the bits and pieces into single place, you can say that this generative model GM, it is trying to find out a PDF, it is trying to find a PDF P which has parameter theta of original dataset D. And why not we use simple DNN, simple deep neural network, to perform this same task? So in the above example, we have seen that we are using something like QKplot to find out a PDF. So that was for one-dimensional dataset. What happen if we have 764 dimension? So for that, why not we simply use a deep neural network which will try to find out this PDF of theta of original dataset, right? So that's the idea of GAN. We are using deep neural network which will able to give me this PDF of original dataset D and the hyperparameter the theta. Now once we are able to generate this, once we are able to find out the PDF, we can easily generate some random sample D dash, and that is the artificially generated point. Now what do I want? I want to discriminate between original input and artificially generated input, and for that we have created a model MD, which is a discriminator model. So just the way we have used DNN, deep neural network, in generative part, just use D and N in discriminative part as well. That's it. So that's the whole idea of GAN. Now we will see how this discriminator is able to distinguish between D dash and D, original input and artificially input, such a way that it is able to give me artificially generated point, right? So what were the case? Let's see the first case. My discriminator model is giving me very high accuracy. That means my loss is very low, right? So in that case, what would be happen? That means D dash and D, my model is giving very high accuracy. That means this discriminator is able to distinguish between D dash and D completely, right? So if we visualize it, it is saying that I'm able to distinguish between artificially generated data point and original data point completely. So that means this discriminator is working just fine. It is giving really high accuracy, and at the same time my D dash is not similar to D, right? One task is failed. So if you see, if my generative part is working good, so let's assume that I have generated some sample and my discriminator is giving me very high accuracy. That means it is able to distinguish between D dash and D. So at the same time, this generative model has failed to perform its task. It is not able to find out this PDF of original data point. At least till now it is not able to find out the original PDF of original data set, right? So when my accuracy of discriminator is very high, my generative model GM has failed to perform its task, because actually we wanted to have similar data set. We wanted to have PDF of D dash and D should be very similar, but if the accuracy of discriminator is very high, this generative model has failed to perform its task. Now in the second case, let's say my accuracy is very low. This discriminator accuracy is very low and loss is very high. So what would happen in this case? In this case, D dash and D, my model is not able to distinguish between D dash and D. So for D dash it is saying 0, for D it is saying 1. It has got jumbled between original point and artificially generated point. So in this case, if I visualize the distribution, I can say that the distribution of generated data point has overlapped between original class. So here my generative model is doing really fine, but my discriminator has failed to perform its task, right? So if I combine all the things, if my discriminator is working fine, if it is doing high accuracy, my generative model has failed to perform its task, and if my generator has doing really good, my discriminative has failed to perform its task. So that's the reason why it is called adversarial. In English, adversarial means enemy or unlike friend. So this discriminator is basically opposing generator, because if it is doing well, my generator is failing to perform its task, and that is how it is performing adversarial effect on this generator, and that is why we call it generative adversarial network. Why? Because we are using some sort of deep neural network. Adversarial because we have seen how discriminator is performing in an adversarial way to this generator, and generator because this generator will try to find out the original distribution of the data set, right? So the actual task of GAN is we want to improve this generator. We do not care about the accuracy of the discriminator. In the mean sense, we want to get the minimum accuracy and maximum loss for this discriminator. So if you see the loss of this discriminator, it is nothing but maximizing the loss of discriminator, right? And this is also called gradient ascent. So in the gradient descent we minimize the loss, in gradient ascent we maximize the loss. So to get the better and high quality generator, our objective is to get the minimum accuracy for generator and minimum loss for generator and maximum loss for discriminator. So we want to hyper tune all of these neural networks such a way that it maximizes the loss of discriminator and minimize the loss of generator, right? So that's all for this video. In next video we will see how we can train GAN. Like we have two different network, generative and discriminator. So we'll see that how we can train this particular GAN, and after that we will see the loss function as well of this GAN. So in this video we will study about the training process of GAN. So before we move forward, just revise the concepts which we have studied in the last videos. So there were two important things. First was generative model, which tried to find out this distribution of original class, this distribution of original data set, right? And given this fake data set and real data set, the task of discriminator is to distinguish between real images and generated images. So in the brief you can say that the task of generative model is to fool the discriminator such a way that it generates a random sample which is very similar to original distribution or original data set, right? And in the meantime the task of discriminator is to distinguish between real images and fake images, and we have some loss associated with this GAN, right? Now the important thing which we need to look into, we have two different models. One is generator model and another is discriminator model, and they are two different neural networks. This is not a single neural network. The discriminator model has different neural network and the generator model has different neural network. The architecture could be same, but actually these two are different neural network. The next question comes is how to train these model, how to train these two different model, and more importantly how to sync up such a way that they act as a single network or single architecture, right? This is the important and most critical part of training GAN. Now there are various approaches researchers try to train this model. They in one technique they do try to train this generator model and discriminator model at the same time, but unfortunately it didn't work out. So they tried various techniques, various methods to make this GAN architecture work such a way that they can train discriminator and generator simultaneously. We will see how that works in the later part of the video, right? Now this is just the high level overview of what we have just seen. So the idea is, for generator model we take some random noise, d-dimensional random noise. That dimension is same as original input image. So it could be different or same, doesn't matter. So the idea is take some d-dimensional noise vector and pass it to the generator. This is generator model. Now my task of generator model to find the original weights and bias which is represented by theta such a way that it can understand the distribution of real images, right? So just the way we have seen in 1D example, if we have this distribution and this is the real image, I want to find out this distribution. So what I'm saying that use this generator network, let's say it is using deep neural network generator network, and it will try to find out the parameter, the weights and bias such a way that it can replicate the original distribution. This is the fake and this is the real image. So the generator network will train such a way that it can replicate the distribution of real image so that the fake and the real image is very similar to each other, right? Now after that we will sample, once we are able to hypertune this theta, we will sample few fake images such a way that now I will ask this discriminator to distinguish between real image and fake image. And if this discriminator model, which is also using deep neural network, if it is able to distinguish between real image and fake image, let's say real images belong to class level 1 and fake image belong to class level 0. By the way, this is the class level given by us. As a trainer, as a model trainer, we manually give these class level to all the real images and 0 class level to all the fake images, right? So now this discriminator network will try to distinguish between real image and fake image, and if it is giving very high accuracy, that means discriminator is working fine. It is able to distinguish between two classes. So the distribution of real image and real dataset is different from original dataset. This is not at all similar, right? So here in this case, generator network has failed to do its task. So what I will do, now I want my generator network to train such a way that it give me very similar result to original real images, right? So what I will do, I will freeze this generator network. I will freeze all the weights of this generator network, and then I will train this generator network such a way that it can understand what is the original distribution of real image. Now this is really very high level overview. We will understand each of the pieces of this particular training in after few minutes. So just bear with me. So if I sum it up, can I say that for discriminator, I want to maximize the loss. We haven't talked about what is my loss in the mathematical form, but we will see. Let's assume that it is log loss for now, right? So I'm saying for this binary classification, I want to maximize the loss of discriminator class, and for generator class, I want to minimize the loss. Now we will see that how we are using the same loss for generator as well as discriminator, and at the same time we are minimizing and maximizing both, at the same time we are minimizing generator network and maximizing discriminator network. So the key thing which we can take from this particular illustration, that for discriminator network we want to maximize the loss, and for generator network we want to minimize the loss. And once we are able to minimize the loss of generator class, the fake images it will generate, it is very similar to real image. Now I will show you how we can train these two different network, the generator network and the discriminator network, and sync it up such a way that it is able to perform such tasks which we have just discussed, right? Now moving forward, let's understand whole thing in the context of MNIST dataset. Whatever which we have just seen, understand the whole concept from the MNIST dataset perspective. By the way, this particular diagram is taken from Medium blog of Renu Khandelwal, right? So this is the source. You can check it out, this source. Now just understand this particular diagram. I have a generator network and I have a discriminator network, right? So the task of generator network is to, let's say I have some random noise with dimension -1 cross 100. That means it is same as batch size cross 100, right? So I have 100 dimension random noise. Now I will pass this random noise to generator. Now this generator has bunch of deep neural network. So it will take the input of 100 dimension, it will upsample it to 256 dimension, that is nothing but 256 neuron or 256 activation function in the deep neural network. It is followed by 512 neuron and then 124 neuron, and then finally we have 784 dimension vector. The reason why we are giving output as a 784 dimension vector, because if you remember my MNIST, the original dataset consists of 28 cross 28 pixels, and if you flatten it out, it is nothing but 784 dimension pixels, right? Now I want this generator to generate artificial image, which is very similar to real data. That is why we are giving output of 784 dimension, so that it is very similar to, it is exact same to original image or original MNIST digit data set, right? So that's the reason why we have used 784 dimension as the output for generator. Now my next task is, I have trained this generator for one epoch. Now I will randomly sample few points such that this is D dash. I will randomly sample few data points and name it D dash. So this is few random sample in the first epoch. Now in the next task, what I want my discriminator to distinguish between real image and the random sample which we have obtained from generator. And in the first epoch, it will try to find out whether this is a real image or fake image. So let's assume if we have 100 point of batch, so now the data set for this discriminator would be D dash and along with original dataset D, and the class level which we have manually given for all the fake dataset, we are saying it belongs to class level 1, and for all the original dataset it belongs to class level 0. Now we will pass this dataset to discriminator and perform binary classification task, right? Simple binary classification task. And if this discriminator is giving very low loss, if this is giving very low loss and very high accuracy, that means there is something wrong with this generator. It has not reached to that stage where it is able to give me the data set which is very similar to original or real data set, right? There is something we need to hyper tune it more. Now what I will do, this is first epoch. What I will do now, I will freeze this discriminator, because in the first epoch it is able to completely distinguish between real image and fake image. This is the first epoch. And by the way, this discriminator is also using some sort of deep neural network which will try to distinguish between real image and fake image as a binary classification. As you can see that we are taking input as a 784 dimension and output as a single 1 dimension. So this is nothing but sigmoid. So if it is giving 0.8 probability score, that means it is very close to 1, and there is a 80% probability that particular data set belong to fake image, right? So what do we want? We want the sigmoid to give me probability score of 0.5. That means it is completely ambiguous. It is not able to detect whether it belong to real class, real image or fake image. So at that case, the distribution of both real and fake dataset will be overlapping. This is real as well as fake, right? So coming back to our problem, what I was saying, now I will freeze all the discriminator. I will freeze all the discriminator weights, and I will train generator such a way that it can understand the distribution of original class. Now we will see how we can freeze and what would be my loss in the next video. We will talk about loss in the next video, but for now think of this as a one time we will freeze discriminator and train generator such a way that it can understand the distribution of original class, and after few iteration I will unfreeze this discriminator and freeze this generator. See, this time I am unfreezing this discriminator and freezed this generator. That means I am pausing the training of this generator and asking discriminator to distinguish between fake image and real image. So this is, let's say, after 100 epoch, and you will see that after 100 epoch, my generator has given me some data set which is quite similar to the original data set, not exactly similar but quite similar to the real data set. So in that case, this discriminator is having hard time distinguish between real image and fake image, right? So let's say in after 100 epoch, the loss of discriminator has increased, right? And still it is giving me some decent accuracy. Now again I want to train my generator such a way that this discriminator will give me this discriminator will give me maximum loss and minimum accuracy, right? So again I will freeze this discriminator and unfreeze the generator. Now only generator will be trained throughout the process. By the way, we are using some sort of back propagation. For discriminator, we are back propagating with respect to discriminator. For generator, we are back propagating with respect to generator weights. So the core idea which we can take from this training example, we are fixing generator first and training discriminator. And in the second task, we are fixing discriminator and training generator. So this is the thing which we are doing to training my GAN architecture, and this process is called double feedback loop, right? Now same illustration I have given here. I have some random vector and some generator model and deep neural network which we want to train. So we want to train some weights and bias, which is the theta of this generator, and it will generate some fake inputs of size B batch, right? And then I will compare the real image with fake image using discriminator, and this is nothing binary classification, and the loss which we wanted to perform in the context of discriminator, I wanted to maximize this loss, and when we maximize some loss, this is called gradient ascent process, and at the same time we want to minimize the loss of this generator class, right? And this process of fixing generator and training discriminator and vice versa, it is called double feedback loop, right? Now this is really perfect illustration to understand the training process of GAN. Okay, I'm getting slightly out of context for this illustration. So let's assume that I have a data set, one-dimensional data set, right? So this is my real data, and this data has this particular circular type of pattern. So if this is my data set D and X is the variable, so the pattern, this X variable consists of circular pattern, right? Now what do I want? I want to train a generator such a way when I sample randomly data points from this generator, the distribution or the output should be very similar to this type of pattern, right? So let's understand the training process of this GAN in the context of one example. So first I said in the first epoch I will take some random noise. Which is G, capital G. Now I'm saying that this random noise could from any distribution, doesn't matter. You can use either uniform or Gaussian distribution. So this is just the common practice to use Gaussian distribution as a random noise, right? In the end, we are using deep neural network to understand the distribution of original real data. So it doesn't matter much which type of distribution random noise which you are taking, right? Now we took some random noise and we have passed these random noise to this generator, this generator G of M generator model, and this generator model consists of some deep neural network, right? By the way, this theta is the weights and bias of this generator model. Now, the output of this generator model can be written as G of Z. So, if Z is my random noise, when I pass this random noise to this generator G in the first epoch, I will get this particular output G of Z, right? Now, what I said, in the first time, I will freeze this discriminator and train only generator part, right? So let's say after 10 iteration, this is the first 10 iteration for generator model. After 10 iteration, when I minimize the loss in the context of generator model, this is the distribution I'm able to achieve. So this is not exactly, this is not showing any type of figure or any type of circular pattern. You can think of this as just slightly better than random noise, right? So what I will do, now I will fix my generator model. This time I will fix my generator model and I will pass this data set which we have just randomly sampled from generator model after 10 iteration. Now I will pass this data set, and at the same time I will randomly sample original real data set with class label 0 and for fake data set with class label 1. So this is the final data set. This is the final data set which I want to give for discriminator. So this time my generator model is fixed and I am training the discriminator model, right? So if I pass this random noise as compared to this real data, my discriminator model is easily able to distinguish between real data and fake data after 10 iterations. So it will give me very high accuracy and very low loss, right? Because ultimately we are using DNN, and I will, like 10 or 15 epoch, I will execute this discriminator network to distinguish between distinguish between real image and fake image, or real data set or fake data set, right? Now what do I want? I want my generator model to understand the original distribution in better way. So what I will do, again I will freeze, okay, give me a moment. Okay, again I will freeze this discriminator model, right? I will freeze it and I will, okay, so there is some hiccup in my system. So moving on, now again I will freeze up the weights and bias of this discriminator model and train only generator model. So after 100 iteration, it has start occurring this type of pattern. So although this is still not a circular pattern, but it is quite similar to real data. I can see that there's some pattern it is starting to understand, this generator model, right? So after 100 iteration, again I will pause this generator model and unfreeze this discriminator model and train this discriminator model. So when I pass this data set after 100 iteration, that this discriminator model will having hard time distinguish between real data set and artificial data point. So in the after 100 iteration, my accuracy will start dropping, right? And my loss start increasing. And again I will perform the same task after 100 iteration by freezing one network and training only another network. So after 100 iteration, I can understand that it has able to consist a pattern, it has able to generate a data set which is very similar to this circular pattern, right? So when I pass this data set after 100 iteration, my discriminator model will having very hard time to distinguish between real and fake data set. Hence, for all of the data point, whether it belong to real data or the artificial data point, it will give me prediction value of 0.5, which means that it is not able to distinguish between real data point and fake data point. And the process how we update weight, let's say when I freeze this discriminator, the loss will update the weights of this generator class, and when I freeze this generator, the loss will update the weight of this discriminator class. So after k number of iteration and epoch, I am able to get very high accuracy by this discriminator model, very high loss by this discriminator model, and at the same time I'm getting very minimum loss with this generator model, right? So that's the task we wanted to achieve, and finally we have achieved it. Without actually seeing this real data, without actually getting any context about real data, my generator is able to generate a data set which is very similar to real data set, and at the end it is able to fool this discriminator, which can distinguish between real data set and fake data set, right? And that is what we wanted. Now let's see a very clean and good visualization about this particular toy data set. Okay, so by the way, this is GitHub profile. So this is, I guess, developed by Google because it looks very similar, and this is poloclub.github.io. I will give all the links and the references. So let's understand what is actually happening here. So this is the pattern, this is the real data set, this is the real pattern which we wanted to understand by generator. So I want to train a generator which can generate these type of pattern, right? So what do we have? We have bunch of noise, we have some generator model which hasn't learned anything so far, and now when we pass some real image with respect to fake image, I have a discriminator, and this discriminator model, this DM should able to distinguish between real image and fake image. Now first time I will freeze DM and train GN, and then I will freeze generator model and train discriminator model, and that's for we are updating the gradients using loss, right? Now let's see the visualization part. See what is happening actually. Okay, so fast forward it. See what is happening. This is some generator. It is trying to understand what type of pattern it is occurring. So you can see that the green data point is the real data point, and the purplish shade data point is the artificial data point which is generated by this generator, right? Look at this. See, after 1500 epoch, it has starting to create the pattern which is very similar to real data point. Now this generator has started to generate the data point which is almost circular in shape and very similar to real data point after 2500 epoch, right? Now let's understand it in slow motion. See what is happening. So I have a noise, and this generator derives sample from noise. After that, this discriminator classifies the sample from the real data, and it computes the loss. Then it computes the discriminative gradient and then update the discriminator part. So let's understand this. So what it is doing? In the first time, it took the noise and passed through the generator. It hasn't done anything. So in the first time, it will just generate some very random sample, right? This is nothing but a fake data point. And in the second step, the discriminator will sample few real data point and compare this real data point with fake data point. Now after that, I'm training this discriminator network. I'm training this discriminator network and freezing all the weights of this generator model. So its task is to distinguish between real image, real data point and fake data point. So let's see here, you can see that we are computing the discriminator gradient and then we are updating the gradients. This is the fifth step. After that, once we have updated the gradient, I will freeze this DM and only train this generator. Now you can see that this generator is taking that random noise and it is trying to learn, it is trying to classify fake images from this random noise. Basically, it is trying to understand the distribution of this real data point. And for that, we are training this generator loss. So this generator loss is getting updated using gradients, weight function, right? And finally, I will update all the gradient weights. So now it will give you complete idea about how we are fixing one discriminator model and generating and training one generator model and doing it vice versa, right? So that's really nice illustration for this 1D data point. Now in the next video we will study the algorithm. We will study the algorithm and loss function of GAN.